Well, hello everyone. This is Caitlin with Mr. Ron LeGrand. How you doing today,
I'm
Ron?
excellent.
Good. We are doing another session of Ask Ron today. Our first one is from Linda Lamotte of Louisiana.
Hey, Linda.
She says, "Hi. Should I call for rent signs to see if the owner would consider selling with
Sure.
terms?"
Absolutely. In fact, that's a good list to target because they obviously are taking monthly payments now. They may be tired of landlording. They may be tired of doing repairs, and they can do away with all of that by just selling it to you. So yeah, landlords are always a good target.
Okay. She also asked, "Should I call the ones for rent that are listed by an agent?"
No. In terms world, we don't do listed properties. We only use those when we're buying junkers through the MLS.
Okay. And she also asked, "Should I focus on properties that have 3 or more bedrooms, or should the area be the priority?"
Frankly, the priority is working with sellers who advertise their houses for sale and or respond to your advertising. And honestly, I'll buy them in the lower end and the higher ends. So wherever sellers will work with me on terms, I'll buy their properties. I like 3 bedrooms better than 2, but I've bought an awful lot of 2-bedroom houses in the past. And in some areas, they're easy to sell because they're very, very common. I mean, we got a lot of them right here where I live, but I would much prefer 3 because they are easier to sell to a family, which is usually what you're installing in the house.
Okay. Our next one's from David Gardner of Illinois.
David?
So he has a situation going on right now. My mother sold home on contract for deed.
Right.
The buyer put $20,000 as a down payment and has been making $1,300 per month payments. He has made 17 to 18 payments to date. The house sold for $90,000, so I think the loan balance would be around $50,000 to $55,000. I do
Not
not.
necessarily. Was there interest involved in it? Because if there was interest involved in it, yeah, they pay a lot more interest than they are principal, most likely. So you can go on your calculator and punch 3 buttons in that'll solve for the 4th, which is the present value of the loan. EZ calculator, download that one, David. EZ calculator, and there's a bunch of calculators, and it's the one in the upper left-hand corner. That's the one you want to use. You'll find it very easy to use.
Oh, cool. He also says the buyer contacted me and told me that he will be having a problem with that payment now due to changes in his life, but can make an $800 payment. Foreclosure would be an option, but not a good one for him. What would you recommend we do?
Okay, what was the payment? $1,000?
It was $1,300 and
Okay.
it's moving down to $800.
That's a big drop, man. That's entirely up to you. But if I did agree to take an $800 payment, I want some big concessions on their part. And honestly, they don't have any choice. They're going to have to agree with whatever you say. For example, maybe you raise the price because honestly, I don't know what else you have to raise, which is just a modification of your existing contract for deed, which any attorney can do. It's just 1 page what they sign. But I wouldn't just give in and do it without some concessions. Now, maybe you don't care. If you don't care, it's all right. If you'd rather have them in there paying the $800 payment than the $1,300 payment, it's okay with you, then I wouldn't do nothing. But honestly, you ought to get something out of the deal. Maybe they got more money to put down. If that's not the case, then you're in the driver's seat. And regardless of what you internally intend to do, I'm not sure I'd agree just to take a $500 drop. I'd probably want to negotiate somewhere in the middle maybe and say, I'll take $1,000, but I won't take $1,300. I promise you they'll jump all over it.
Okay.
All right?
The next one is from Cruz of Florida.
Lewis?
When buying, I often hear you say that we will pay all the closing costs as a selling point to the seller.
Lewis, that's only if we're buying with nothing down now. If the seller is getting some money, I expect them to pay some of the closing costs. I mean, more than a couple grand. So it's going to be case by case. And when I buy all cash, of course, I want them to pay all or most of the closing costs.
Okay, can you explain to him like when and when you do not?
I think I just did.
Okay.
Okay. When the seller's getting money, they're going to pay some costs. When they're not getting any money, I can't expect them to bring a check to closing to sell their house to me with nothing down.
Okay. The next one's from Donny Minor of Ohio.
Donnie?
I have a house on lease purchase. I haven't done any deals yet, but have been to Quick Start Real Estate School. If I lease purchase to tenant buyer, how do I redo a contract to show my option deposit as a credit when the buyer goes to get a loan?
Okay. What happens when you put a tenant buyer in the house and now they call you and say, I'm going to go get a loan. or I'm already working on one. If I were you, I'd just create a purchase and sale agreement between you and your buyer, assuming you own the house. Did he say he owns the house or not? Anyway,
it doesn't specifically.
If you own the house, create a purchase and sale agreement between you and the buyer, showing how much down payment that you received for them. Now you'll have to prove that because the bank will contact you and make you prove you got the down payment, whatever that amount is. But remember, they don't get any credit for the rent they paid you, so that's moot. But you can write the contract up. The purchase price is what you agreed upon. You show the down payment as earnest money deposit, and that makes it very simple for the bank to accept. Now, somewhere along the line, I'd tell your buyer to tell the person processing the loan that your tenant's been in the house for a while, because if they've been in the house for a while and they have been making payments on that lease purchase, that is a big plus for them to try to get their loan approved, assuming they've been making them on time. Because you're probably going to get verification of payment from the bank as well. And if you put on there they made their payments and they made them on time, that'll help them get the loan approved.
Okay. Our next one is from Carey Dodson of Alabama.
Carey?
Which document or clause should we use to mitigate an underlying ARM?
None. There's nothing to mitigate. If you're taking over a loan and it's an ARM, which is an adjustable rate mortgage, it's pretty clear if the payment goes up, your payment's going to go up. There's nothing you're going to do about that. You don't expect the seller to pay the difference. If you're buying a house, you just get what you get. Besides, in today's world, it's not going to go up much. They don't make these loans anymore that they go skyrocket and put people in trouble. If it goes up, which it probably will not, the way interest rates are going right now, you just eat it. It's not going to be a big deal. Of course, next opportunity you get to raise the rent a little bit, you can raise the rent to compensate. And if you wanted to, you could actually make your tenant buyer raise the rent if your mortgage payment goes up. Honestly, I've always found that more trouble than it's worth, and I just eat it. And I think you're worrying about something needlessly, so there's really no clause that you need.
Okay.
But one more point though, I don't ever put a tenant buyer in a house for more than 2-year term. So my goodness, what are we worried about here? What's going to happen in the next 2 years? Now let's say you did have an increase. Well, 2 years from now, if I want to keep them in the house, I just raise the rent to compensate for it.
Awesome.
Okay.
Okay, our last one is from Vin Diresta of New York.
Vin.
What is the preferred strategy in using someone else's self-directed IRA to be used for my investments? Is it better to solicit other people's money or just use my self-directed IRA? A colleague mentioned that he had a pension from a previous job and is just sitting there, and he's wanting to invest it into real estate.
That's probably your next private loan. Let's deal with your first question first. Do I use my money or somebody else's? The answer is, what are you going to do with your money if you don't use it? If the answer is nothing, then use your money. But I would not do anything with your money that is long-term, such as putting a down payment on a house with it, because the only way you're going to get it out is to sell a house. However, if you want to use your money to buy cash for a house and renovate it and then sell it, fine. I do my IRA all the time. And I don't use other people's money as long as I got money available. But it's up to you. If you got a use for the money in your IRA that'll get you a higher rate of return than you got to pay a private lender, then that's probably what you want to do. So if I borrowed money from a private lender, I'd pay them 7%, which is not a big deal. But let's say I wanted to use money for a longer term than a rehab would be. Let's say I want to put a 5-year loan on it. Then I might consider using a private lender's money and stretching it out with payments over a period of time so my money's there in case I need it. But I know this, if I use my money and I buy a house, especially if it's free and clear, I can go get a private loan on that house anytime I want if I needed the cash. So again, if I had the money, I'd probably use it, knowing that I could replace it if I needed to without selling the house. But if I don't want to use it, I'd use somebody else's so that mine's there and I don't have anything to do but decide if I want to use mine or somebody else's later.
Okay.
It's a math problem, really. Can I get a higher rate of return by using mine, or would I get a higher rate of return by using theirs? But again, if I don't have anything to do with mine, why not use mine?
Good.
All right.
Okay, that was our last one.
Okay, well, good. I'll go out and get something done, and make sure you submit your questions now. We want your questions, and we do this every single week, and you'll get it every single Friday, so You send them, I'll answer them. See you next week.